Good afternoon. This is certainly going to be a contrast to what you've just been talking about. I'm going to come here and really share a masterclass on Twitter. So the conference organisers contacted us and they said, you know, Twitter's very well understood, but can you give us a summary of maybe how we should be using Twitter? What's the best tips and advice? And I guess, you know, at its heart, Twitter answers one question. It answers the question, it asks and answers the question, what's happening? And that's always been the prompt when you come into the app. I particularly liked this. I saw this was a tweet from someone. It said, my mum thought someone messaged her saying, what's happening? I'll show you that. It says, so that's how it looks on the app. And her mum replied, nothing. And it's a good illustration, actually, because that got thousands of retweets. And it's a good reminder that as an open public network, sometimes we've all got that one tweet in us that can get thousands of retweets, something that can take wing and be carried far and wide. I particularly love seeing these things. And I thought this one was a good example of that. So this has got 60,000 retweets, 140,000 likes. But it gives you a good reminder of how we're using the apps on our phone in different ways. And a good reminder that, you know, increasingly people are using Twitter as the app that brings them news. So this guy says, Instagram, my life is a party. Snapchat, my life is a quirky TV show. Facebook, my life turned out great. Twitter, we're all going to die. And it's a reminder that the news is how we're getting the news, and the news being really stark. But Twitter is increasingly the app that we open to see what's happening and see what's breaking in the news. On the spirit of that one, I liked this. This is by a guy called, this next one's by a guy called Duray. And actually Duray was a school teacher and found himself going to the Black Lives Matter campaign that was happening in the US, and now he's become a campaigner. He stood for the mayor of Baltimore. He's found his life transformed by campaigning in the last year. But I thought this was a good one, because we all wrestle with these things, don't we? What do the different apps bring us, and what's the role they provide? Now, he finds that Twitter for him is home, because you curate your own experience. Everyone there is there with your permission, and you've chosen to follow them. Facebook is grandma's house. Snapchat is your best friend's house. Tumblr is the lunchroom. Instagram is 24/7 prom. I thought it was just an interesting way that, because we all think of the apps in different frames, I thought it was a good way to think about how those things work. Of course, the critical thing we're definitely seeing on a platform like Twitter right now is the fact that people are using it to stay abreast of what's happening in the news. And we've seen increasingly more and more people are opening Twitter to see what's the news and how it's breaking. This gentleman definitely plays a part in the news having more interest than ever before. A tweet by Donald Trump. I think what Donald Trump has definitely illustrated is that the ability to communicate directly with people. We've always talked about disintermediation, the ability to talk directly, and we've always talked about musicians can talk directly to their fans, or writers can talk directly to their audiences. I saw the great British writer Philip Pullman yesterday not only tweeted that he was writing 3 more books in his beloved Dark Materials series, but also he was responding directly to people. So cutting out that middleman, and I think Donald Trump has been incredible at illustrating that on a big scale. Here's a film that really just illustrates how Twitter and Donald Trump are transforming politics. Oh, we just need a bit of fun.
Some would say this new administration is obsessed with Twitter. On Saturday, Spicer walks into the White House briefing room for the first time and immediately delivers a statement about tweets the administration didn't like.
For all the talk about the proper use of Twitter, 2 instances yesterday stand out. One, reporter falsely tweeted out that the bust of Martin Luther King Jr. had been removed from the Oval Office. Secondly, photographs of the inaugural proceedings were intentionally framed in a way in one particular tweet.
2 days later, he walks into the briefing room for his first full press conference, and in the first minute, lets everybody know he's been checking his Twitter mentions over the weekend.
By the way, just as I get started, I know that Josh Earnest was voted the most popular press secretary by the press corps. So after reading my Twitter feed...
It's not only Spicer watching Twitter. members of the administration saw that the National Park Service was retweeting tweets that showed the Obama crowd size during his inauguration versus the Trump crowd size during his. Well, they took the tweets down and the National Park Service was ordered to temporarily stop tweeting. We're not even a week into the Trump presidency, and it's already becoming clear that this administration is using Twitter not only as a publishing tool, but as a key feedback channel where it's listening, responding, and acting based on what it sees inside Twitter's walls. So what do you want to call this? I would say we're now in the first Twitter presidency.
Hi.
Hey, Twitter presidency. That's not a bad line. I should tweet it.
So we've definitely seen the impact that Twitter's having on news. I thought before we go into 10 ways that you can use Twitter and 10 ways that it can enhance your media plan, I'd share some of my favourite tweets. I particularly enjoyed this seems like a relic from a sunnier time, doesn't it? But I particularly liked the Biden tweets, and this one here, Biden saying to President Obama, look at this, you got to say something. Joe, it's my farewell address. Just say peaceful transition of power. I'm not sure what that's related to. But I liked this one here. So back to how big tweets can develop big audiences. I'll show 2 or 3 of my favourite. This is what guy says here. Imagine this. So I stayed at my nan's house yesterday. I had ripped jeans on. Long story short, I woke up and all the rips were sewn up. This one here. I'm not sure this is going to connect to the international audience. So, bro, you on EE? Nah, O2 fam. So it's a phone network gag, that one. But and so I've shown the impact of tweets in the news. We're definitely seeing more and more tweets that are landing on the front page. So let me give you 10 reasons why adding Twitter to your social campaign might be incredibly helpful. But the first one is that while Twitter definitely has its fair share of bumpy news, in fact, we're on an incredibly strong clip of growth. So this is the growth in our daily active users. During the course of the last 12 months, we grew by 3% in quarter 1 last year, we grew by 5% in quarter 2, we grew by 7% in quarter 3, and we grew by 11% in quarter 4. So not only growing, but accelerating in our growth. And I think, a lot of people look to try and understand a reason why. And the reason why Twitter has seen this strong and accelerated growth is because we've made 1,000 very small incremental changes. There's no simple answer to bringing growth to a product like Twitter, but we've added things like while you're away, we've added a better summary of tweets by different people. We've tried to show you a richer variety of tweets by showing you some of the things that people have liked. And really just trying to bring diversity to your timeline. The one thing that I think has been in everyone's attention in the last 12 months is maybe people are only seeing a very small, restrictive set of opinions. I think what we've really worked on is how can we give you as rich a possible experience, and it's paying off in usage. So let me give some reasons about how we're using Twitter and why you should consider it. Well, firstly, what we did last year is we moved the positioning of Twitter. We moved Twitter away from being in the social media apps, and we moved it towards the news channels. And the impact of that is that we're the #1 news app in 110 countries on the iTunes store. I think that's really important because it reflects the fact that when we open certain apps on our phone, we expect to find different things. There's some apps that are wonderful messaging apps, some that we use for photography. Twitter's definitely the place we go to find out what's happening and to find what news is breaking. Our trending topics are always one of the best ways to actually see what's breaking in the news. I liked this tweet, and this was by an account called Social Catherine, and she tweeted out, I've taken the top part off. It said, the top of it said that I was asked to describe the difference between Facebook and Twitter. And I think what she's captured is something that's incredibly true. We've got a lot of apps on our phone that are about look at me, and Twitter's definitely an app that's more about look at that. It means it's incredibly powerful as a tool for driving interest in things rather than necessarily sharing personal, private detail. I thought it was a really nice encapsulation of why Twitter's different. And what's definitely been the case is that there's been a lot of talk about going live streaming, broadcasting live. I think, the critical thing is if you reduce Twitter to one word, what's happening thing down to one word, you'd say Twitter's live. Twitter's the place where you go to see what's breaking. So we increasingly we're streaming a lot of content live. This was when we streamed Transfer Deadline Day, the day that players can last be exchanged in the English Premier League. This weekend we were streaming live rugby across Europe. We're trying to bring more and more live content to people so they can see what's happening. We've really been live since day one. So here are a number of reasons why you might want to add Twitter to your media plan. Firstly, the Twitter users globally are probably the most influential 319 million people in the world. And let me give you some evidence why we say that. We did a piece of work where we looked to try and understand how Twitter works and what Twitter users say. Here's 3 things we found. We found that Twitter users were 35% more likely to pass on their opinions about products and share opinions. And so like I mentioned, it's a look at that environment. We tend to talk more about the products we're consuming. So that might be, we found that Twitter is incredibly powerful at driving people to go and see a film. Why? Because it's a place you go and share those things. 31% of people say they're more likely to convince others about their opinions. And 6 in 10 people have shown something from Twitter to their friends in the last week. And you might recognize that. You might recognize the friend you've got who seems more connected to what's happening, seems more connected to the breaking news. We tend to find from the research we've done that those people skew and correlate very strongly to heavy Twitter users. And the next thing is that people tend to come to Twitter in a very discovery mindset of mind. So people tend to come based on that look at me, look at that contrast. They tend to come to try and see what's happening. And that has a really big impact. We went and we did a piece of work, and we did some neuroscience to try and understand how that was triggering the receptivity to messages in people's brains. So this was a piece of work that effectively brought a group of people into a room and tracked their brain signals. And we tracked almost 130 people to try and see how certain triggers that they were seeing on their phones were being activated and turned into memory retention. So there's a guy in the background there donning one of the helmets that we gave. And we found three mindsets. We found 3, there's one of the headsets there. We found 3 different ways that memories were triggered that Twitter helps. The first one is people come to Twitter with a mission to discover things, that they come specifically to look for something. So let me have an example here. Someone comes and he's searching for who won a challenge in the Great British Bake Off TV show. And in fact, that discovery mindset, that when someone's on a mission, that enhances memory encoding by about 1/3. We next found that people were coming looking for inspiration. They were looking for ideas about things. And effectively, a heavy Twitter user tends to come and look for those things. And we found that inspiration was focused around passions, and that increased memory receptivity by 28%. The final one is people came for a sense that they might discover something by chance, serendipity. And that's a massive part of some of the tweets I showed you earlier that have developed a big viral audience. They've really developed that because people have just come along and by chance seen something they're amused by. And that increased memory coding by 35%. So our conclusion from doing that piece of work was Twitter was a highly attention-focused environment that achieved a lot of results. We found that the audiences there were more attentive, they were more responsive, and they were more trusting. And there was almost a 10-point uplift across all of those things. Just a reminder of how that can work. I'm just going to give you a couple of other examples of how this works. So this is how Twitter is increasingly used as a strong creative canvas. We saw 220 times increase in video on the platform in the last 2 years. Massive increase in the amount of video. And as a result of that, over the last 3 or 4 years, the platform has been used, it's featured in about 76% of all of the Cannes Lions entries. So increasingly, it's a creative canvas that's being shared and used a lot. Gets people talking about those things. I thought to give you an illustration of some of the creativity that we see on the platform, I'd show you this campaign here. And this was something for the British Heart Foundation. They were really interested whether they could create a bot effectively that would use the heart on Twitter, the like, to be a campaign activation device. Let me show you this film. A good reminder, really, that when you've got a very high attention environment, when you've got an environment that drives a lot of interest, that a simple execution can really have a high impact. I'm going to end as examples on something that I saw on Christmas Day that I thought was a genius use of the platform. Anyone who came here yesterday, Gary Vaynerchuk was talking about how Twitter really is the last remaining truly social network where people can start a conversation and see anything that happens with anyone. And this is a good example. So this is the CEO of Airbnb. And on Christmas Day, like we all do, at the end of the night, you're sort of sitting there, some TV show that you don't want to watch is on. And he started just asking a very gentle question. He said, if Airbnb could launch anything in 2017, what would it be? And he got hundreds and hundreds of tweets. It skipped past this one here, but he effectively said, look, I feel like I'm running a radio show because there were so many tweets coming in. Someone suggested to him, why didn't he open Airbnbs on Mars, which he said, that's what I'm working on. And it's a good reminder, really, that effectively Twitter is that open platform that you can have conversations. So what were the things they said? Well, Twitter's the place where what's happening. And I was asked to come and give a perspective on the ways that advertisers and brands and marketers and individuals would use it. So the second thing is that Twitter's a news app that's changed the news. You've seen the Donald Trump tweets. You've seen how it's playing a pivotal part in the way that the news is evolving. It's less look at me, it's more look at that. Twitter's been live since day one. It's the most influential 390 million people in one place. It's got users in a discovery mindset. It's a high-impact creative canvas, campaigns that get people working, and I think the evidence we've seen time and time again is that Twitter works. So effectively, I was asked to come and give a description of how you can use Twitter. I thought I'd do one thing separate as well. So I run a podcast on work culture that you can happily come along and capture. And the reason why I've sort of started thinking about that is I think increasingly we're finding ourselves, anyone who finds themselves answering the question, how's it going? And you say, I'm busy. I think this is a perennial human condition now. And understanding how we can be happier at work, understanding how we can be more satisfied, seems to be like the big question that faces all of us. So the final plug for that, Eat, Sleep, Work, Repeat. I'd love you to give me some feedback, see how it's going. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. And I'll answer any questions on Twitter if anyone wants to tweet me. Thank you.